I'm going to show you how to use the 1Password CLI tool, the command line interface tool for 1Password, to kind of get around a little minor annoyance that I find specifically with OPNsense firewall admin login page. Let me show you what's going on here. So if I try to sign in using my password, if you look at the 1Password item for my OPNsense admin login, I've got the one-time password. I've already set that up in OPNsense using Google Authenticator style one-time passwords. So you need 2FA code to get into my OPNsense admin page. So if I hit login though, it says wrong username and password. And you'll notice that there's no real field to type in the one-time password. The reason why that happens is because OPNsense, the way OPNsense works for what 2FA is they want you to copy this code, paste the code, the one-time password code, and then copy and paste the password in. And then that lets you in. So it's kind of a little bit of an annoying way to log in to OPNsense. And there's actually a few threads on the 1Password community forums about this very specific issue. And a lot of feature requests for it. And I actually posted a mock-up of what I felt like would be a good kind of workaround to add to the 1Password UI, where you have a dynamic password and you can use kind of these tags based on the fields in the vault to create a dynamic password that will auto concatenate all that information for you for sites that require that. Another site that requires that I'm aware of is usaa.com. So I have to do that whenever I need to log in to pay my credit card and all that kind of thing. And it's a real pain in the butt. Got a lot of traction on this. A lot of support saying, yeah, good idea. But there, in many of the threads, representatives from 1Password say, we're probably not going to build this in because they feel it's an edge case, which is too bad because I don't think it is. But there's a way around that. Thankfully, 1Password actually has a command line tool that you can download and use. And you can get information out of your 1Password vaults using the command line, which is really useful to when you're writing scripts to get information out of your 1Password vaults using a command line script. So we'll do that. So let's open up, this is on a Mac by the way, so your mileage may vary on a Windows or Linux machine, but on the Mac, it's easy enough to install. If you have Homebrew Package Manager installed, all you have to do is type brew, I think it's brew install cask 1Password-CLI. Okay, so now 1Password CLI is installed. So if you type OP for 1Password in the terminal, you'll get the basic usage of 1Password from the command line. So that is super useful. Okay, so the next thing you gotta do to make this work is if you go to advanced, or I think it's developer actually, yeah. Go to the developer tab here and make sure this command line interface connect with 1Password CLI is enabled. Otherwise, the script will not work. So that's part one of our solution here. So part two of the solution is, as always, Keyboard Maestro on the Mac. Keyboard Maestro is great because it can automate totally different things on your Mac and, like the name implies, act as the maestro across all those different utilities to do things that you couldn't normally do. So I've created this macro called concatenate OPNsense password. And you see the way this works is that there's a variable I set, a constant variable in this macro for the vault item UUID. So what that is, if you go into your 1Password vault here, and this is my entry in 1Password for that. Okay, the first thing you need to do actually though, in order to get this to work, is go into your 1Password settings. So go down to the advanced tab, make sure this thing that says show debugging tools is enabled. So click that. You can see here it adds menu options to copy JSON and UUID. So now if you right click on the entry here, you can see now you get these options here to copy item UUID or as a JSON file. In this case, we just want the UUID, which is just this string of numbers that uniquely identifies that vault item. And then you're going to paste it into this field here in the macro. Everything from there on out, you don't need to mess with. The only thing you may need to mess with is this, the shebang file. Depending on where bash is located on your system, you need to change this. Since I installed bash 5 via Homebrew, that's where the shebang is for bash. So, as you can see here, Keyboard Maestro, this is how we reference the variable up here in a shell script, kmvar_, and then the name of the variable. These are the 1Password CLI commands to get the information that we want, stores them into a little variable, and then in the end, it just spits out a concatenated password containing the one-time password code and the actual password. So that's pretty cool. One thing you can do is in Keyboard Maestro, obviously, you can map this macro to a keyboard shortcut. So if you want to map a keyboard shortcut to that, that's fine. In this particular case, I don't do that because I only need to use it when I need to log into OPNsense. So I don't feel like it's worth having to remember a specific keyboard shortcut for that. So a nice thing about Keyboard Maestro is that there's this option here, one of the triggers. You can set status menu trigger. If you use that as a trigger, if you have the Keyboard Maestro icon in your menu bar here, you can actually trigger those macros from this little icon here. If I turn this off, remove that, it disappears from here. You can see 1Password CLI. This is the macro group. But if I set that to status menu trigger, whenever I need to log into OPNsense, I just pull it there from there, and it's easy enough to do. Okay, so let's go back to the OPNsense login page. I fill in my username here, and instead of using 1Password to fill in the password here, now we can just go up to here to the Keyboard Maestro icon, choose concatenate OPNsense password, and if you run this for the first time, 1Password is going to ask you permission. Keyboard Maestro engine wants to use 1Password CLI. Do you want this to happen? And of course, you want that to happen. Okay, so you might need to run it again. And now, if you paste that in, I'm in. So what it's doing is it's sucking out whatever the current value of the one-time password is in this item, and it's also pulling the password from the password field, and then it's concatenating both of those items into a single string, and it pastes it to the system clipboard on macOS. And then at that point, all I need to do is hit paste, and it works. So now I never need to go in here and manually copy and then paste it into the password field, and then go back here and copy the password, go back to the login field and paste it. This automates the whole thing. So that's a really useful way to use the 1Password command line tool in conjunction with Keyboard Maestro, which is usually part of the solution when you're trying to automate little annoying things like this on your Mac.